Welcome back to Threes In, everyone. Bobo here. So, a couple days ago, I told you about going through the altitude chamber at Randolph. It's located in building 661 downstairs in the basement. Um, the stairwell is too narrow to get that thing out of there, and I don't think they could if they wanted to. So it's just going to be left down there. I don't know what they're going to use it for. At any rate, that's beyond the scope of this presentation. What I wanted to tell you about is the training we received in pilot training and throughout our Air Force careers was second to none. It is just fantastic training. A lot of you can relate to what I just said here. Going through that altitude chamber, I learned a lot about myself with respect to hypoxia, hyperventilation, all kinds of things like that. At any rate, one of the things I think the Air Force was a little bit short on was fatigue training, training us to recognize and combat fatigue within ourselves. We have quite a substantial aircraft accident history on that, where fatigue was attributed as the primary cause. I don't know why I began thinking about this early on. And I thought the Air Force really missed an opportunity to explore fatigue in individuals right after survival school. I mean, they beat the hell out of us for about a week and a half, running up us down mountains, across rivers, dusty roads, and whatnot. And then camping out with little sleep, actually. And then the POW training camp, that was just a hoot. And so forth. But by the time we finished the course, a lot of us were just beat to hell. And that would have been a time to introduce a module on fatigue for us, to have us identify our own individual symptoms of fatigue, just like hypoxia and hyperventilation. What is it you feel? What is it you experience with fatigue? It's just like identifying skin tingling with hypoxia, or your fingers tingling, or whatever. With fatigue, I tend to get irritated, very irritated, and I don't focus very well. Those sort of things. And I recognize that in my Air Force career. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just something that was integral to me and my being. And there were a couple of times when, in recognizing that, I would say something to the individual I was flying with, or the crew, or whatever. Say, hey, listen, I'm getting a little bit tired. Keep an eye on me. Don't let me go stupid on us. And that just seemed natural to me. It wasn't a measure of my capabilities or anything else. I remember coming out of LaGuardia one night on the DC-9, and we had another pilot on board riding in back. So I called him up front before we took off, and I said, hey, Carlos, would you mind riding in the jump seat with us? I said, we've been up here for whatever hours, and we were going beyond our crew duty. We had the authorization. We had a waiver. You got that? So anyway, we had the authorization to fly back to Detroit, but the co-pilot and I were both beat to hell. And I had met Carlos. I had known him. I had known of him, I suppose, at McGuire when we were flying C-141s, and I got to know him a little better at Northwest. Anyway, he came up and rode in the cockpit with us, just as another set of eyes and ears to help keep us straight. And that's I suppose, what I'm advocating here. Talk about fatigue and how you can combat it, how you can recognize it, and so forth. If you're flying alone, put the thing on the ground as early as you can, and take care of it that way. You know, an interesting story here I'm going to interject is in World War II, one of the ways the fighter pilots combated fatigue was they would take little pieces of tobacco from their cigarettes and put it in the corner of their eyes, because that tobacco would sting. Anytime they went to close their eyelids, it would sting them. And that's the way they could keep their eyes open, hopefully keep their focus to make it back from those long missions. At any rate, I've always thought of things like this a little bit outside the box, and I've been very comfortable there. Sometimes being in the box with these career pukes, I didn't play well with them. Anyway, another story, another video. Another thing that I once thought of was shooting Bomarc missiles at MiGs. I think that would have been great sport. Now, my neighbor at McGuire was a Bomarc launch officer, and we get to talking. And after a few beers, I learned a little bit more about the Bomarc, and after a few more wines, I learned even more, and so forth. So I knew I had a great idea what its capabilities were. And then later, it was reinforced by what I had heard with them shooting them at B-47s down at Tyndall. They were so accurate that they had to program the flight path into them to miss the B-47 because they were hitting the damn things and they couldn't use the B-47s again. That's how accurate they were. But when you think about what they carried were nuclear warheads. And the idea was to shoot them up into the sky with an onslaught of Russian bombers and set off a nuclear cloud. But they didn't need that accuracy with those nukes. But it turns out that's just how accurate they were. So anyway, I came up with this idea of strapping these things on the back of destroyers or whatever, taking them out in the Gulf of Tonkin, and when they saw a MiG get airborne, let them dance with a Bomarc. I just thought that would have been a great fun, Clear the area, it's MiG dance. It's like the skating rink. Now it's ladies' choice. Well, let's give the MiGs the choice and see how they like it. But no, they took the damn things out, put them in the deserts, disassemble them, whatever. What a waste of money. Anyway, the other thing that always intrigued me was as much as I love the T-38. Now, if you watch this channel any, you know about my love affair with the T-38. But God bless her, as much as I did love her, she couldn't shoot, she couldn't drop bombs or anything like that. But we had this F-5. Now, if we had taken the latest version of it, the F-5E and F, and converted them to trainers, as well as retaining the combat capability of those airplanes, I think that would have been a win-win proposition for everyone. And when you look at it, it did make sense. It was a proven entity, and it would give us a backup of both aircraft and pilots in the event of a national emergency. But then you get politics in the act, both from the civilian side and from the military side. We don't want our fighter pilots flying in Air Training Command. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. So there were too many hurt feelings to deal with in that vein, but I just think that would have been slick to have a whole ramp of F-5s and let the T-38s kind of just go away. So those are kind of some thoughts I had from thinking outside the box, and I suppose I always will. At any rate, this is Bobo. Base gear, stop. Good to see everyone.